Welcome to the Bold Book of the Day with Dr. Denise Nicholson, a show that is a central hub and safe space for authors to share their stories. The Bold Book with Dr. Denise begins now.
Hello, welcome back to the Bold Book of the Day podcast. My name is Dr. Denise Nicholson, and this podcast is for anyone looking for inspiration. And so today I am so pleased to welcome back. The last time Leonard Costner was here, he blew this community away with the story of the Legacy Universe. And now he has Legacy Serene. He has written 7 books in this series. The story is born from a hospital bed, I remember correctly, and reconstructed while he was doing some reconstructive work on his body. And I believe, if I remember correctly, you had a vision, and this vision is now a full-fledged 7 series, which I think deserve to be a series on Netflix or somewhere. It is just amazing. The way it's written it's just more than intriguing. It comes alive. So please welcome to the stage, Leonard Costner.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. Wow.
Thank you, because we've done this before.
We have done this before.
You know,
it was a fantastic time the first time.
Yes. And then the last time you were here, you shared the story of the origin of this series. You shared how the injury, the dream, and then that became a first book.
Yes.
So for those of you who are just joining us for the first time, who has never heard the first version, please, you give them a little snippet and update of that.
Sure. So the first book was derived from ego death. And I was, in a past life, basketball player, had some success. My identity was entirely wrapped around that being an athlete and being a basketball player. My father played professionally. I grew up traveling around the world with him as he played, and that was the person that I knew myself to be until my senior year of college, when my leg disconnected and I had to have a pelvic reconstruction. So instantly, my entire identity was torn away from me, and really, I had to go through ego death in the stages of grief, in mourning that life, because I was no longer going to ever be that person. Obviously, I didn't know that. It was a 2-year recovery process, and the entire time I'm just thinking, hey, I'm going to get back and be the same person that I'm not. But a lot of if you're an athlete out there, there's a sort of an invincibility wrapped around really that character and that identity. And once I finally was able to step back on the court and looked at some of the things that I was doing while I had this leg that was, still in pain, but I was, entirely focused on being back and being a basketball player, I no longer had that invincibility, and it became a lot scarier to do some of the things that I previously would do just off instinct. And, looking at some of these things, I'm just like, I probably shouldn't do that anymore. But with that being said, during my ego death, there was a 30-day process where I had the same reoccurring dream every night for a month, and ended up jotting that down, and that turned into my first novel, Legacy. The story of a young man who discovers that he's the reincarnation of Spartacus, and is pulled into a clandestine world that's been thriving since the decline of the Roman Empire. And really, it's a modern retelling to the point where Luke, the protagonist, has to go through essentially the same sort of historical events played out in a modern setting that Spartacus did, and hopefully have a different outcome.
Wow. If I remember correctly, the scenes were in Italy, the first book.
So the scenes were in Connecticut, in
why did I think of Italy?
Yeah, in a geodesic arena. It was covered by this glass. Essentially, it was a bubble. It was literally there's a bubble of this world, this glass bubble of this world with essentially the Roman Colosseum within this glass
Yeah.
bubble.
Okay, so that's what I'm remembering.
Yep.
Okay. Now tell us, I don't know anything about ego death. I do know about death and dying, and I do know about the stages of grief. And you sound like ego death has to go through the same stages of grief. Please explain ego death to us.
So ego death is the loss of your identity. The identity, the person that you know yourself to be, is no longer alive. If to put it in simple terms.
Yeah.
For me, the dedication and sacrifice to be an athlete and to be able to be a D1 athlete, and as well as be on draft boards for the NBA, that became my 24/7. There was nothing else that I did that had to do with anything that didn't revolve around thinking and being that person. And once that is no longer possible, it's literally the same instance of dying.
Yeah.
Because you can't do that anymore. And there's no way of getting it back. And to find that out is, it's hard to do. Because I'm sitting in the exam room with the orthopedic surgeon who's the number one in the country, and he does all these professional athletes, and he's telling me that, hey, you were born with a broken leg and you played your entire career with this broken leg, and you're not going to be able to do that anymore because I have to reattach it. Which you don't know, you're sitting there, you don't really know. You're like, hey, I'm invincible. I can beat this. I've been injured before. But really the whole process for me for 2 years of just recovering from that really was a slap in the face. Like, hey, you don't exist anymore.
Wow.
You don't know, and especially again for the sacrifice of just committing to that, to have the blinders on being that identity. You don't exist anymore is the nicest way to put it, because you go from, okay, I'm A, I don't have A anymore. I never thought about anything else.
Right.
I never thought myself of anything else.
Yeah. That was your entire being. You were looking forward to this great career, and you have been working on yourself every single day to be the best version of this person. So every decision was made on that future person.
Yeah.
And then that person disappeared.
That person no longer exists.
Oh my goodness. How gut-wrenching is that death, and how do you cope?
You don't actually realize it immediately. Oh. It's like a person who doesn't know they're over the hill. They keep going, and they're just wondering why things aren't going correctly. For me, I imagined and I prepared myself to tear my Achilles at some point of my career, because that's what everybody done. And especially people who are athletic like me, and I played, like, they tear their Achilles. It's a 6 to a year month process. For me, the doctor had to actually go in and pull my muscle back up and then drill holes into my hip socket in order to reattach it to my leg, and then reshape the head of my femur so that it fit in the socket that was broken because it never formed properly in the first place. So it was 2 years, and for 2 years, I'm just thinking, okay, this hurts. I have to go through this. And then on the flip side, I come back after 2 years, and I'm still able to achieve what I set out to do, but I'm in excruciating pain while I'm doing it. I can't tell anybody that, because then I'm not going to have the ability to continue, right?
Right.
My
You're
stock,
just bearing it. Oh my goodness.
yeah, my stock as an athlete went from, wherever it was down to zero. I'm
Yeah.
working my way back in. I'm getting invited to, NBA, D League tryouts and getting these pro contract offers. And I can't take anything because I'm in excruciating pain. The year prior to my leg, I broke my neck.
Jesus.
Yeah. So
What's your mother have to say about you being in this sport?
well, basketball is supposed to be the safe sport, right?
Yeah.
It's
So
not
we
football,
heard.
but yeah, I'd been through a lot, and I just kept going. I was still succeeding, but at a point it was, am I willing to be in excruciating pain daily just so I can earn less than I would if I worked a 9 to 5 job?
Oh my. Okay, so you had to really think about the cost mentally, physically, and financially. It's taxing.
Very taxing. It's very taxing.
And yeah, and there's a decision to make. Now, this book came from, it seems like, a really sacred place, because that journey is not easy.
Mm-hmm.
And then you started having these dreams. Did you know what to do with them in the beginning?
I did not. And the funny thing is, having now just completed my 7th novel in, let's say, January, February, I finally understand what my purpose for writing the entire series is. Which I wrote the first book in 2012, and now it's, 2026. And I just realized and just understand why I was supposed to write this series.
So I don't know if you want to share, what that what that understanding is, what do you want to share about it? Because I know sometimes you do get like an epiphany, and then you're like, you know what, I'm going to keep this to myself just so that I can get a better understanding of the full picture of what it is that I need to do. So do you want to share?
I'd love to share. So while I was writing the 7th book, and all the stories come to me, they really come in twos, which is interesting. All the stories come in twos. I ended up writing the majority of the books in twos, other than the first book. And then the 7th book is 4 times as long as my longest.
Mm.
So while I'm writing it, I'm promoting it, and I just got comfortable with the idea of promoting the books and myself. And actually, you and I was the first podcast I had done speaking the story publicly, because so I just got comfortable, and I am pulling in and getting these interested people who are, telling me that they read the book and it's having these profound effects. One lady told me that her father just passed, and reading the books was the only thing that was getting her through it, because of her connection to the story, to Luke Hart, and the way it made her feel. Another shared with me that his brother did 13 years in prison. He read every single book. He sent them every book, and he thanked me profusely because he hadn't seen the light come back into his brother's eyes since he had went to prison.
Wow. When
he read the book, that's when he saw the light come back into his brother's eyes, and he had to thank me for writing the story.
That's incredible. That is just think of myself as an author, and to hear someone's life or light come back to them because of my words, that is super impactful and so meaningful. That's why it's good to go on book signings, just go on a book tour, and not just before people have read your book, because you want people in the room that has not read the book, but you really want people in the room that has already read the book, so they can share these stories of how impactful your words really are, life-changing.
So I've never done a book signing. I'm definitely open to it, but never done that. So I'm looking forward to that first time. But in terms
We
of,
have to talk. What do
we
you
got
mean?
to talk.
This is
Well,
your seventh book.
so we'll get to all that fun stuff. But
Yeah.
to answer your question,
Yeah.
um, for me, the purpose of writing the story is just what those people are experiencing. And mind you, I didn't set out to write a book. That was never my intention. I wrote the first book because of the dreams and more of a bucket list thing to say, hey, I wrote this book. And then people just generally liked it, although it was never my intention to have a whole series, a sequel, a universe. And it's not lost on me the effects that people are having from it. I appreciate it very much, but because it's not my intention to be an author, if that makes sense.
Oh my goodness.
I'm not doing it to be thanked.
Right,
And
right,
for
right.
me,
You're fulfilling your purpose.
exactly. I
Yeah,
I was going through this ego death when the first book happened, and I started receiving story through transmission,
yeah,
essentially.
yeah.
Every time that I write a story now, I don't plot anything down. I just receive it and I write it. So the fact that these people are having these feelings, and it's about a person who decided that they weren't going to be a slave anymore, wasn't going to be oppressed anymore, in Spartacus, and that his descendant is going through transformation, awakening, and self-discovery. That's the purpose, for me at least, of why I'm writing this. It's because for some reason I have to receive these stories to give these people the ability to have this transformation and awakening and self-discovery, of who they are, what they could be, and the greatness within them beyond the veil of what society tells us that we can't be or we shouldn't be or who we are.
So it's kind of like an inspirational and motivational series.
I would hope so.
Yeah, it sounds like, because all these impact all the impact that the readers are sharing, it sounds like they were, inspired and motivated. They
Yeah,
had a transformation.
yeah, transformation.
Yeah. Tell me what it felt like after you wrote the last words that closed out the seven series.
When I finished, I was surprised and amazed at how long the book turned out to be.
Mm.
Before writing it, before I put down the first word, I said to my business partner, like, "Hey, this book is going to be over 100,000 words. Never done that before." That
Mhm.
topping off is somewhere around 111,000 words.
Mhm.
This book isn't going to be released for at least 10 years at this point,
Mhm.
and I may still add something to it. But as
Mhm.
I was writing it, and there were scenes and instances of each story coming into play, and drawing back and callbacks and retconning some things, and I was just amazed at, oh wow, this is why I was supposed to do this.
Let's talk about Comic Con. Is it called
Comic-Con, yeah.
Comic Con? Yeah, let's talk about Comic Con. How did that? Tell us about the deal and how did that come together?
So interestingly enough, the gentleman whose brother read the story and he called me. We had done some work with him before, my partners and I. He owns what used to be the largest social media company, marketing company in the world, Daily Dose. And once when we did a marketing, essentially a test run with him. It was the first time I actually spent dollars towards marketing the story. We spent a good deal of money with him, and after that, he called me and said, "Hey, because of what you did for my brother, I will never charge you a single cent, and I will reach out to every single contact I have in my network in order to make this into something that it should be.
Look at God. Wow.
Look at, right. So I was like, oh yeah, that's awesome. Not thinking anything of it because, how many people actually, do exist.
And even if you do, you don't know if you're going to get somebody to be interested,
Exactly. I still think, people like the book just because my family likes the book just because I wrote it, I don't. So he actually stuck to his word. He immediately started reaching out to his contacts, to film and TV producers, and one company in particular actually responded and showed tremendous interest in having a conversation. So we actually scheduled the conversation prior to the holidays, to Christmas just passed. And I'm thinking, hey, they're going on holiday. We're never hear anything from them again. January rolls around, and first week of January, they send 2 meeting invites. Like, hey, pick whichever one works for you. I'm like, wow, that's actually interesting. You're sending 2, so you actually want to have this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Long story short, these folks were involved with Men in Black, Kill Bill, Black Hawk Down, Cowboys vs. Aliens, and their sister company is Platinum Comics. They happen to be the 3rd largest comic book company in the world. There is it's like, hey, we want to do this with you. We want to work with you. We have the opportunity, this unique opportunity to do a graphic novel. We can do it with them. They actually own DC and Lunar. So DC folks are familiar with, like Batman, Superman, the company who puts out those characters. They own those, they own that. This sister company owns it. So they're like, hey, we'll do a 3-issue test run, publish it through DC, and we'll debut it at Comic-Con. And we'll have that population of folks who go to Comic-Con as a part of distribution. We want to build distribution and sell distribution in order to get it green light. But we'll have 8 million viewer base of hardcore comic followers, and we'll put out the comic book first, and we're also going to develop the film. So we're developing a film and we're having a comic book debut in July at San Diego Comic-Con, the largest comic book convention in the world.
Wow. So this is blowing my mind. If you only knew what's racing through my mind, because first of all, DC owns Superman and Batman, and those are already iconic characters. So they have a massive legacy on their own. How does it feel? Because if I'm feeling like this inside, how does it feel to have the legacy universe sitting alongside that kind of IP?
So you might hate this answer.
Tell me.
So it's a dream come true. I've always imagined that, ideally being a comic book would be a milestone to hit. Having a film would be a milestone to hit for this. I started once I got into it and felt comfortable and proud of what I was doing, and start to actually notice beyond, no longer a basketball player. I'm sinking into the idea of writing these books in this universe. It's a milestone.
Yeah.
But for me, the work is more important than the destination. So even though it's fantastic, once that hits, the job still continues.
Yeah.
So I just want to hit the milestone, and then, okay, what do I need to do next to continue to tell the story so that the next person can learn and have that same transformation, that same self-discovery, that same awakening, similarly to these other folks, because of a character that they can find true identity with, not somebody who's an eccentric billionaire who spends a ton of money in order to be a superhero or some alien from another world. It's a story about somebody who could be your brother, your dad, your cousin, somebody who's related to you, could be you, in the same sense that it's just the will in order that they're fighting for.
But I'm seeing the larger impact, because so many people have already expressed how transformational it has been for them. Can you just imagine for a second, the purpose is now being fulfilled through a different vehicle,
Mhm.
but it's even larger than you imagined.
It's larger than I imagined, and it's, again, I appreciate it. I love it. It
Now,
I, I think for me,
so humble.
my God, I think for me, I have an obligation at this point to those folks who read the stories and who feel these things, more so than what the success of it might be ultimately. As
Yeah.
at this point, obviously, I'm chasing Stanley and the blueprint that he set forth in terms of the universe that he created. But I have an obligation to these folks who absolutely love the story. Another gentleman got a full sleeve tattoo just based off the characters in the story and the renderings that I did, and it's baffling to me still that people enjoy what I wrote without intending to
You're
do.
building a tribe, you know?
Yeah.
It's a tribe of people. Sometimes you don't know what people are going through that will, when you offer something that will take them from that space into your new world. And it may seem cult like to you, like, why are they getting a sleeve of, of these characters or the things, the representatives of this book? But it's because of feeling a sense of belonging
Hmm.
to a group.
Yes.
And that is so important. And as authors, when you write, sometimes you don't think about the message hitting people so deeply that they now want to just follow you everywhere you go because they believe in you. And
Yeah.
that one win that you gave them, have them chasing wins after wins because they believe that you can now transform more things for them.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I 100% agree with that. And I think that, honestly, I think that, for me, a lot of folks try to contact me through Instagram. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and I do my absolute best to have in-depth, long-form conversations with each one of them. And as many times that they want to reach out to me, I will have a conversation with them because I appreciate them so much just for reading this. It's an investment in time,
Yeah.
to sit down and watch and read a book in long form,
Yeah.
especially with the current state of society and everything being 5 to 7 seconds. It's an investment in time for people to dedicate that much, of their life in order to read that. So to me, just on that foundational point, like, I am still, but the fact that they want to communicate with me and have these long form conversations, I do that with anybody who wants to.
Now, I know that you have a BA in graphic design.
Yes.
So, how involved are you in the actual visual look of the graphic novel?
So I honestly, so we haven't started yet, or the agreements have just been completed. So
Okay.
finally dive into that. But I don't want to have too much in terms of me actually picking up a pencil or anything like that. I've created a ton of time in terms of AI renderings, for these characters, and kind of have like a live action feel to it. So try to stay true to that, try to stay true to what the folks who read the stories and love them tell me that they imagine these characters to be. But again, being that that's not my strong suit, I don't want to, do things that, kind of change up what probably could be the best adaptation of it, if that makes sense.
Tell us about, I don't know if you can tell us about the other, ventures that are offered to you. I know that there's a film.
Yep.
Can you share a little bit about that?
There's one gentleman in particular who's a award-winning writer, screenwriter, and artist, a graphic artist, who in particular that the production company that we're working with wants to go with. They have done Cowboys and Aliens, for example. They're, the folks that they work with were involved with like Hacksaw Ridge. So there's, a lot of credibility in terms of the work that they've put out. I again, for me, when I first spoke with them, they, told me like, hey, we get thousands of submissions. Why should we go with yours? And this is prior to them seeing any of my assets and seeing any of the information. And actually, that's kind of where, really this thing took off. After that initial conversation, I sent them just the data and the asset. I made a 90-second reel, trailer reel, but using the AI, using Flow, Google's, and our second call. This is after the owner of the company calling me repeatedly, apparently, and calling me from a California number, and I obviously don't answer phone numbers that I don't know, But he's called me repeatedly. I'm in traffic one day. I end up answering. He's like, "Oh, I finally got you." I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" And he's like, "Hey, we have to have another call. We on another call." And my first question to him was like, "Hey, you guys have finally seen the assets. You've seen the data. What do you think? Do you think we have legs?" So he goes into this long thing and is like, "Yeah, we wouldn't be talking again if you guys didn't have legs." Ooh. Basically, that that first marketing that push that we did with that investment into the daily, we had over 2 million profile views in 30 days. There was a jump in followership from what was it, 1,200% jump in followers on our Instagram page. The YouTube page grew immensely itself, so it was a success. However, I was expecting something else, and I essentially just took all that data and input it into AI, and was like, "Hey, what do you make of this?" And like the response that they gave to me was, "You've more than proven yourself in 3 different facets that this is a viable and very viral story that you have here. You need to," and it laid out specifically this plan. "You need to do X, Y, and Z. I did X, Y, and Z, and this is where we are today."
So AI kind of gave you the strategy to move forward into this brave new world.
AI told me exactly what to do. Is like, "Hey, make this 90-second sizzle reel. I'm going to put together this one pager with all this data that you sent me, and you have this contact." So there is one specific contact through a doctor of mine who he's used to own the largest indie film company on the East Coast. He's close to Spielberg. And this gentleman has read every single one of my books because my doctor keeps giving them to him. He was like, "Hey, you get it to a certain point and we'll take this and we'll do something with it." So I'm just thinking like, hey, finally have written all these books and yada, yada, yada. I have this data. What do I make of it? And AI said, "Hey, you need to go contact him because if you don't, then I will." And I was like, "All right, you're not do that." But I appreciate that. But that same information I sent to the gentleman who said he's going to open his contacts, and he did, and he sent it out as well, and that's how we got to this conversation and to the progress that we are at now.
Now, which characters are you most excited to see come to life on the screen?
So Luke Hart, the protagonist, I call him the Echo of Spartacus, is the reincarnation essentially of Spartacus. He very much has the same, let's give it the aura, key factors of like a Harry Potter. And from what I'm told by readers, it's, Luke Hart being essentially that Captain America figure especially in times of need for this identity. I'm excited to see how he's portrayed.
Yeah.
If the actor who is able to who is chosen to play him can essentially bring that character to life and assume the identity, just like Daniel Radcliffe did with Harry Potter.
Mm. I'm excited and so proud because I speak to authors all the time, and they 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 have limited dreams. Like they have, okay, I want to write a book, but they don't see all the potential. And guys, if you're listening, if you don't see all the potential, first of all, do what Jay Leonard did. He put all of his information, his data in the chat or whatever into artificial intelligence, and they gave him some really great ideas. They gave you a strategy, they gave you who to contact, and I'm sure they gave you information like, okay, so here's a letter here's the first letter, here's the second follow-up, and
Yeah.
so the work was done. You just have to now do it. The strategy was created, the roadmap is created. You just now have to follow steps and just do it. Do it.
Yes.
Amazing. What advice do you have for authors who are just still in the process of dreaming about writing their book?
That's actually a great question. I think that, kind of to piggyback off what you said, I think for me specifically, my strong suit, more so than just being able to write these stories that I'm receiving, to be able to render these images, to bring these things to life, is the idea to know where my capabilities are.
Yes.
Aren't. I have, throughout this entire process and, trying to transform myself and find an identity that, outside of the one that I'm still haunted by. I've done a ton of things in my life that prepared me for this situation. So instead of constantly sending out query letters and, going through the whole rejection process because it doesn't fit a mold, I decided to create my own publishing company.
Yes.
And now that's not to say that, going traditional route is, dead or not important, because it's very much a viable option. And if you, have the ability to do that, I commend you. And, I don't know if when we spoke last, I mentioned to you that I did have an agreement with a publishing house in Connecticut, and then the gentleman that I was working with got sick and didn't pursue it any further after that. To create my own publishing company, because I do have the business background at this point in order to do that. So I want to have ownership in that. Have an idea of what you want your story, your world that you're building to be, right? As a writer, you got to know beginning, middle, and end, and you have to have that foresight for your entire process, your entire career, more so than just the first word and the last.
Yeah.
I think
a big vision. Yeah.
Exactly. Naveen Jain in his book Moonshot talks about, most dreams fail because they're projecting too small. Right. So for me, the way that, if there's one person who's affected, so profoundly from the story, then that means that there's 10, that means that there's 100, there's 1,000, 100,000, million. There's an infinite number of people who will be affected by this. I just have to continue to tell the story in order for the rest of those people to catch up. And for me, the moonshot idea is just that same feeling that the person had, what they feel transformed, and identity has been found through their exploration of a person that they can find true identity and recognition with. Then that's the point. Yeah.
You know, you made a really interesting point just now, and I second it because I have lived it. When you have a small dream, it's so easy to get comfortable because you reach that small dream.
Hmm.
But you just said to have most people don't realize they dream because the projection is so small. You're not dreaming big enough.
Yep.
And one of the things that I've done in my own business is start to dream so big that it forces me to do the work to make it happen.
Hmm.
For example, we're having our authors conference this September
For
this
it?
year. We
Yes.
500 people in the room, and because we want to make that happen, first we booked the bigger room. We
Yep.
booked it, so now we have to fill it up.
Yeah.
We booked the Rockland Community College can hold over 500 people in that auditorium. It's a gorgeous auditorium. But the first thing I did was I said, you know what? Let's book that place and we just got to fill it up. You know, now you're not trying to sell tickets and then if it happens, you get the bigger spot. You got the big spot. And another big dream that I've had is, yeah, we're starting with 500 this year, but in the next 3 years, we're going to Madison Square Garden. We're doing it bigger,
Love that.
massive.
Love that.
And we are going to fill up that space.
Love that.
Authors, there are enough of us in this world that can travel to the United States and travel to the big city and fill up Madison Square Garden. It's a big dream,
Mhm.
but one day I'm going to be crazy enough and I'm going to book it.
I love that. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so you just reminded me of myself just projecting so big.
Yep.
So that I can force myself, because it's easy to get 500 people in the room once you start to strategize and say, oh, all you have to do is do this. How do you sell, 500 tickets? It's easy.
Yeah.
Contact 500 or more. Maybe
Or
you
more.
need to contact 5,000 or
That's it.
50,000.
Problem to have. You know?
You know?
Yeah.
So I am excited about your book and the vision and the way it's going, the places that this book is taking you. Wow.
I think just a second point to that I just want to add real quick is that in the beginning, when you're starting with your idea, decide on, and if you can't, don't worry about it. But if you can decide on what lane you would like to take yourself in, you won't get bogged down with just being stuck stationary because you don't know where to go. So if you have the idea of, I want this to be a film, I want this to be a graphic novel, I want this to be an audiobook, I want this to be whatever the case may be, you can start and tell your story in a manner that helps you follow that lane, and then you're not spending money on things that are taking you away from that destination. Because a lot of folks don't have ideas, essentially, of, like we talked about, of where they want to be, what the destination is, and then they start throwing things at the wall hoping it sticks, and it just takes them in a different direction, or they just get stuck. Just soul search and find what you ultimately dream of this being and follow that lane. And then you'll be able to, reach the destination much easier than just going in and saying, hey, I wrote this book. What do I do now?
I think the key word that you said there is decide, because the power is in your hands. You just need to decide. A lot of times we get confused. I see authors flip-flopping because they don't want to make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
Because they feel like, okay, if I make a decision and it doesn't work out, then, oh my goodness, I'm the worst. When there's so much you can learn from having made the decision quickly, go through the experience, and then get the analytics, get the feedback, use that, whatever experience it was, to get results that you can now put into artificial intelligence and say, hey, what do I do with this? This is what happened last time. How do I change it and make it better next time?
Exactly.
Wow.
We have the power to do that. And again, it's you don't have to be something that somebody had already told you, or everybody's journey is different. And as you're going through this, just stay true to yourself. And if you're not able to decide, you don't have an idea, don't worry about it. Just keep going. Just nurture that. Just keep going. Eventually you'll figure it out. But for me, just whoever's listening to this, just keep going. There is somebody who wants to read what you've written.
So where can the audience get this book, or your books, because you have several?
Yeah. So if you want to just Google J. Leonard Costner, then a bunch of SEO will come up, and Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anywhere books are sold. My first 3 books, Legacy, The Echoes of Fate, and Legacy Resurrection, are available for purchase. Legacy Serene, my 4th book, may still be available for purchase. I tried to pull it down just because of everything that's been happening. Mm-hmm. So I'd like for new readers to just have the journey of Luke Hart before there's essentially a 20-year time jump between book 3 and 4. And it might get confusing for new folks coming in, but just being able to stick with that time period, the first 3 stories, get an idea of Luke, fall in love with him, and cheer for him and hope for him, then let's start there. And I'll re-release book 4. Or if you just contact me, and if you've read the other 3 and you want to read it, let me know. I'll send it to you. Doesn't matter.
Say I'm ready.
Ready? Just call me, contact me, whatever you want. Let's have a conversation. And you can do that. Instagram, it's at The Legacy XII, spelled exactly how it sounds. And then there's a website, thelegacyverse.com. You can go there. And and if you send me a message and I get it, I will try to respond to you as soon as possible, and we will have a conversation as long as you want.
I'm so excited, and I'm looking forward to you come to the Authors Conference this year in September. I'm so hopeful for all your projects, and I'm really excited to see you in person.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, like I said, you were my first podcast. And for us to be able to have the second one, the third time that we speak, I hope that, I'll put this out there.
Yes.
It'll be my name next to Ryan Coogler or something.
Ooh, I love it. See, dream big. I have great big expectations. I love it. Before you go, I love to ask my guests 3 questions. So let me start with question number 1. What's one bold promise that you can share with the audience? And you've said so many bold promises already. So if you want to repeat yourself, go ahead.
One bold promise is that there will be a film of Legacy, either theatrical or streaming exclusive, within the next 2-3 years.
All right. And what's a bold statement that may cause a paradigm shift?
Legacy will be the biggest, the most influential universe in the world.
All right. Ooh, I can't wait to see all the merchandise that comes out of this, because it just seems so cool already.
I just filed all the trademarks.
Perfect. Good. Smart move. Now, what's a bold move? And you've said several bold moves that you'd like to make in the future. So just wrap it up for us. What's a bold move that you'd like to make in the future?
In the future, I would like to... God, this really goes back to what we just talked about with Naveen Jain in his book. I would recommend people reading Moonshot. But there's going to be a point in time very soon where the entire world will shift because they found identity in themselves, and they've had a transformation and an awakening because they recognize the effects and the things that this person goes through for essentially them. And it's a story about you, for you, in order for you to feel your best. And very soon the world is going to awaken to the greatness within themselves.
Wow. Every time this man sits down with me, like the universe just gets a little bigger.
Oh, you're being nice. Oh.
No, from a recurring dream in a recovery room to a 7-book saga, a DC graphic novel, a film, and a production deal. The Legacy universe is just living proof that boldness compounds. So just step out in faith. This is your sign to get your message out there. If you need help, join the Writing Incubator community. You can follow me on Instagram or send me an email to authordnicholson@gmail.com. Follow me on Instagram, author Denise Nicholson, and you will get so many opportunities to join my community so that you can get your book out of your head and onto paper and dream big.
Thank you for joining us for the Bold Book of the Day with Dr. Denise Nicholson, a central hub and a safe space for authors to share their stories. Follow Dr. Denise on Facebook and Instagram at Denise Nicholson, or go to denisenicholson.com. Remember, no one can share your story better than you.